Awesome. Good afternoon, y'all. I'm so excited to be here today with you. I'm on spring break, but I'm sure that you all are in classes on this week. So thank you for making the time to come here and talk to me. That makes me feel a little bit special. So my name is Michalyn Easter Thomas. I am the city council person for Memphis City Council for District 7, which includes, I like to say, everything from the river to Raleigh, if you know kind of around Memphis. So I represent areas such as Mud Island, Harbortown, Victorian Village, Uptown, parts of Midtown, on up Poplar, Crosstown, North Memphis, Fraser, Raleigh, Nutbush. I have the largest single member district in the city. So that's part of what I do. But I'm also an educator within Shelby County Schools at a local high school. So I don't see any of my former students. Usually, when I come on these, I see a couple of them. But I currently support teachers and I coach them and help them to support their growth inside and outside of the classroom. So those are my two full-time day jobs. If people ask, what are your day jobs? However, before I was a council person last year, this is my second full year. And if you can imagine ever doing something new in a leadership role when COVID hits is definitely an experience that has taught me so much this past year and a half. But before I was councilwoman of my district, the path to politics really started with my community work. I'm from North Memphis, currently stay in North Memphis now. Um, from Memphis, born and raised, Central High School, also went to Christian Brothers University. Then I did my graduate school at Columbia in New York, taught in the Bronx for a year at a high school in the Bronx, and then moved back to Memphis to teach in Memphis. And so, with my work in North Memphis, I have a nonprofit called Our Grass, Our Roots, and that was established in 2014. And all we do is make sure that we partner and empower with the neighborhood leaders and groups to make sure that we're getting the progression we need in our neighborhoods. And so, with that, the work has already been done to continue to try to build those stronger communities. And so, within that, what I learned, what it meant to really advocate for others, not just what you need and not just for yourself, but advocating for others. And also asking accountability from politicians. And so that was something else that was learned and also ingrained, that in order to do the work in the community and to be able to help others, you have to form partnerships of at least communication with the individuals that can help you get that work done. And lastly, what doing that community work for Our Grass, Our Roots in North Memphis helped with was keeping my feet on the ground with people. And one thing that I always tell myself, remembering with leadership, you want to make sure that you keep in touch and keep in communication and keep a level playing field with the people in which you're helping. Don't be so stuck in your leadership role that you forget who you're doing it for, and the reason why you're doing the work that you're doing. So, with that community work, it made it not easy to go into politics, but it made the road a little clearer. So I will tell you that I did not plan to be the city council representative for District 7. This was not in my 5 year plan. It was not on my vision board. It was not in on my on my wall of what I said I wanted to do. However, doing the community advocacy work that I was doing, I noticed that we needed leadership that was responsive in the city level. We were able to get responses and help and support from our state representative, from our senator for our area, for our county commissioner, from our school board representative, but we just could not get that same representation from our city rep. And so I made the decision to go ahead and run. I made sure that it was what I was supposed to do, that I had my support in place, and that we were ready to work, because it was a lot of work. If anybody tells you that running for any position in politics is easy peasy, it is not. Run. Do not take their information for truth, because it is definitely a lot of hard work. However, sacrifice is a part of the game when you are looking to continue to be a leader in whatever role that you're choosing. So within this role of politics, what I really do, city council only does three things. We review and pass the budget. So every penny of sales tax that you are spending that goes to the state and come back to the city, every piece of property tax that if your parents are here and family relatives here who are paying those taxes, that comes in, it all goes to the city budget. And we decide how every single penny is spent in the city and what it's not spent on. So one, we review and pass the budget. Two, we can pass laws or otherwise known as ordinances. So if you are wondering why now you have to wear a mask everywhere you go, you are welcome. I submitted that ordinance last year in April so that we could protect our communities. A lot of people had an issue with it, but look at us now. We just put our mask on like it's nothing, like it's a second thought. And sometimes being a leader, you have to make decisions that may not seem popular at the time, but if you are a leader, you're looking at long term. And so that was definitely a decision that was very unpopular. However, it had to be done to play into how we're going to protect and keep our community safe during COVID-19. And so also what we get to do as a city council person is respond to constituents. And that is one of my favorite things. It's just so warming when Ms. Jones will call me from down the street or somewhere in Fraser or Raleigh or North Memphis and say, my trash hasn't been picked up. There is a car parked out here. It's been out here for 3 weeks. People are piling up their stuff on the corner. Can you take care of it? And the most greatest thing to be able to do is to make a phone call. That's it. To director of public works or public services or sanitation and say, can we take care of Ms. Jones Street like this week? And then to get a call back from Ms. Jones, it just says thank you. And so that's one of the things that just keeps me going in motivation and knowing that the little things do matter when you're in leadership. It's not all about the big accolades and the awards, but just making sure sometimes older politicians may call it meat and potatoes, the things that matter, the things that fill you up, the food, the necessities, the small access, not the shiny or the sexy things, but the things that make people happy. So that is what I do in my day-to-day roles. I support students and educators, and I also support the people of Memphis through my role in city council. So I'm happy to be here today with Lucy and you all who have joined us. Any questions, any comments, feel free. I will tell you what I know, and if I don't know, I will help you figure out how we can answer that question. And I see some Divine Nine people entered on the screen, so I will say that I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, so you can also add that on my introduction. So Lucy, I will turn that over to you.
I know they're excited about that. So as you know, we spoke about earlier about a lot of these students are involved with leadership partnerships, and they also do a lot of volunteer work and are civically engaged in, social justice initiatives around the city. So one question that I wanted to ask you, and the students I know will appreciate this because it is kind of confusing sometimes. They don't really know exactly where to start sometimes, is how do you think students can become more in tune with the needs of their community?
Simple, but not simple. You're not going to like this answer. Talk to them. You have to make sure that you're asking people what they need and what they want. One thing that I made sure people knew who were helping me on my campaign in 2019, we didn't have a lot of money. Running politics takes a lot of money. However, I do have 2 feet, and so I knocked a whole lot of doors. Between knocking doors and doing phone calls, we probably hit over 10,500 people in my district. And so with that, what we made sure to ask was not, can you vote for me? It's not the first question, but my first question was, what matters to you? What are you concerned about in your area? Is it schooling? Is it crime? Is it access to grocery stores? Is it the aesthetics, blight? What is it? And then after getting that information on what they actually care about, being able to talk to them on their needs and their wants. Nothing worse than having all of your information, you've done your research, you've looked at all the information possible, you've gotten some suggestions and some solutions to some problems you think are happening, and then you go and take them to a person or a group or an area, and that's not what they need. That's not what they're caring about. That's not what they're asking about. And you may feel that, man, I did all this work and they're not even accepting it. But did you ask what they were really requiring and what they really needed in that time? So I gave you earlier the different neighborhoods that are in my district. So you can imagine that people from Fraser and North Memphis and Nutbush do not have the same questions or needs as those who are in Mud Island or Harbortown in my district. So I have a range of needs from those constituents who call me. So I would not, to the demographic that is in maybe the North Memphis area, talk about what's going on downtown and how different developments are happening downtown, because they don't care about that. They're worried about their neighborhood and their area and how are they going to access things in their neighborhood. And so that's when you learn, how do I prioritize? What am I really advocating for the people that I want to help? So making sure that you find ways you can talk to those people in which you are aiming to support and aiming to advocate for. That can be virtual Google surveys put out. That can be starting Facebook groups. That can be dropping flyers in barbershops, beauty shops, gas stations, corner stores, libraries, community centers. That can be if you have, maybe if you're in Memphis, or if you are mentoring in a certain school or volunteering in a school somewhere after school, asking the principal or the community engagement coordinator, hey, we're doing this. We want to reach out to these parents about this particular topic. Can we leave a flyer in your office? Or can you give this to all the students who are in aftercare to take home to their parents? Finding ways in which you can really target the demographic and the population that you have. And that'll only help your work as a leader or as a advocate be more polished and prioritized. Because if you don't know what you're aiming to help, if you don't know what you're aiming to support, you can really deplete your resources fast and easy. And so you want to make sure that you're targeting the money that you have, the resources that you have, the items that you have, by knowing exactly what people need. So you got to talk to them.
We strive so much for that personal connection with people, and that's really hard in this COVID world. I mean, we don't get to see people the way that we used to. So I would also ask, to that point, what do you recommend students can do to maybe become more civically engaged? And like, what is the importance from your perspective as somebody on the city council to, like, what's the importance of civic engagement for students?
Oh, we need everyone to pay attention to what's going on. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you don't think somebody is watching you, and maybe you don't act or do the same thing that you would do if somebody was watching you. Same thing in politics. If there are elected officials who believe that no one is paying attention, that no one is looking at the agenda, that no one is listening to the council meetings, that no one is paying attention to their votes, are these officials going to be fully accountable to you? And to answer that question, 9 times out of 10, they probably won't be, because there's no one to hold their feet to the fire and ask them, why did you vote in this way? Why are you not supporting XYZ? And that doesn't mean that you have to be, that everything is confrontational or everything is aggressive, but there are so many ways, from easy to more involved, that anyone can be civically engaged. So it can start with listening and watching city council meetings that happen every first and third Tuesday at 3:30. And we also have a full day of committee that hold Tuesday, usually starting at 8. They have it on YouTube. They have it on the website, City Council website. And at 3:30, they also play it on the radio on 88.5. I don't know if y'all still listen to FM radio, but FM radio 88.5. My grandmother does, so I'll say that. Also, your county commission meetings, which happen on the alternate weeks of city council meetings, as well as your school board meetings. And at least if you're not able to listen, just looking at the agenda and seeing what's going to be discussed this week. And a lot of times that's where people have the questions, because if you just look on a regular agenda, like for example, we have city council meeting this Tuesday and our agenda came out today. And a lot of those items are approving expenditures or spending from the city budget. And so we have to keep up with that, because that's where your money, my money, where our dollars are going from that city budget. So that's the easiest way to be engaged, is just looking at the agenda, seeing what's coming up, and finding time to listen. Put it on the YouTube, put it in the background, just so you can listen to it. I will say sometimes it gets a little entertaining. It's like, what's going on in here? But MTV is not coming to give us a reality show soon. However, you still get to see it free on YouTube every first and third Tuesday with that. But that being the easy way, if it's something that you're not in support of, or something that you are, sending an email, making a phone call to that political representative, either whether it's in support or in opposition, letting them know why. It doesn't have to be long and fancy. It can be a paragraph, introducing yourself, saying where you stay, because when you do give comments for during government meetings, you may see how people give comments. You do have to state your name and your address for the record, just so they have it. That's standard wherever you are. So even in an email, you can say, hi, my name is Sarah Jones. I live at 123 Central Avenue, and I'm in support of this resolution to give money to the children for their school. I think it'll help them. I'm a mentor at XYZ Elementary School, and I really think that it will make a difference. I hope that you can continue to support this elected representative. Thank you. Super sweet, simple, to the point. It might not feel like a big fancy thing because you just sent the email. However, I do know that a lot of people, more than you think, do actually read their emails. I was going through mine today and responded to some, and it does help when we're making decisions to see who's actually putting their voice in. And then you can go a step further. You can make comments at city council meeting, county commission meeting. You can organize around a certain thing. You can start petitions depending on what are you doing. You can take it from one level to the next. I would just say, however it is, just making sure that it's planned, it's strategized, you have your support in place, and you have that end goal and the steps you have to take to get to that end goal.
That's great. I know that it's really easy when you're young. I mean, I'm still a young person, but I think it's really easy when you're young to kind of think that things that are political are kind of like out of your forte and you don't really know what's going on, because political things can be very confusing if you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know how to discuss them. So that's a good encouragement to them to know that like they are able to call, they are able to email, and they are able to make those connections and make their voice heard if they want it to be. I do have a student asking a question, so anybody else who may have a question, please make sure to type it down in the chat and I will read it out. I have a student asking, what advice would you have for someone who aspires to earn a position in local government?
So I won't give you the whole spiel, but I will say that first off, just think about why are you wanting to run, and think about your reason, and making sure that that reason is rooted in change and people, and making sure that, is it a reason that when I get tired, when I think that I don't want to do this anymore, I still have the motivation to keep moving forward for change? Because if it's a reason that is rooted in personal gain or something for a resume, or I want this leadership, I want this power, it's not going to work out well. You may get super, super tired and bogged down early on. So you have to make sure that your reasoning is for people and for change for those people. And then look at what you are actively doing. So, what in your life is tied to community work? What in your life is tied to support for change? Because when you run, you have to get votes. And so you have to think about where are those votes going to come from. So, if I haven't been involved in this community, how would I be able to ask them to give me the support to represent them in government? You want to make sure that your work is open enough that allows for partnership and collaboration with others, but you also want to make sure that your work is targeted and speaks to the person that you are. So, for example, as I said earlier, I was not planning on running. However, the community work that I did kind of aligned that for me when I didn't ask. And so when it was time for me to ask for support from folks in the community, I was going to people that I was already working with throughout my nonprofit. I was going to individuals in whose churches that I had helped with past cleanups. I was going to individuals on the street or in businesses that I had frequented often, or went to pass out flyers for something, or gave them information about a program that's coming. Or I went to my past Girl Scout troop leaders. I was a Girl Scout for 12 years at Lindenwood on Union. But going to my past Girl Scout troop leader and saying, hey, can I have that support? So being able to look back, like if you look back now on the things that you've done or been involved in, ask yourself, would I be able to go to those people for support? Would they be able to truthfully say, yes, this person does work for the people, and that's the type of person that he or she is. And so you have to think about that as well, because it's not just you. You have to get the votes of other people in order to put you in that position. And so if that's what you are wanting to do, also with that, make sure that you get your leadership training. Seek out organizations and groups locally, statewide, and nationally that trains candidates. When I ran, I didn't just say, hey, yeah, I do work in the community, I'm going to go for it. Yes, I did say I did work in the community, so I know people, but I also did 3 political trainings just to make sure it was this what I really wanted to get into. So learning how you really divide up the ways you're supposed to go, knocking on doors and doing phone banks and phone calls. How do you fundraise? What are the legal laws with how you spend your campaign money? Things that you have to learn and stuff that you have to do to make sure that you can give it your best. Whatever career field that you all are going into, you're at school for a reason. You're getting that training and you're making sure that you're getting something that says, I want to do this in my later years. So I'm making sure I put my best foot forward on training myself because I want to give my best self to others.
So I know you talk a lot about how your development, like personally, and the way that that came about. But obviously, you also have a team that you work with. So could you possibly discuss the importance of team inclusivity and positive leadership influence when building a team?
So it is nothing is alone. If I would have did this alone, I would not be here talking to you with smiles on today. However, that I think that goes back to what I was saying about the work that you're doing and how people can verify for you and that you are a trustworthy and hardworking person. Then it won't be hard for those people who you work with, maybe in your leadership group or campus group or church group or your friends, to turn into your support team, because you want to make sure that you're a person that helps build consensus is a leader that listens, that, when you're building consensus, you're putting ideas together. You're not tearing anyone ideas down. You're not making anyone feel any less than important in the group. You're making sure that all voices are heard and evaluated when it's time to make a decision. And you want people to know that even if we didn't go with your idea, it was still included in consideration. And there is also still room for you to do this work with everyone, because you want to make sure that people feel valued in what they're contributing. Because if they don't, it's easy for them to drop off, back away, not be in communication, or submit just really shoddy work. And you don't want that in whatever team you're building, in whatever group and organization that you're working towards. You want to make sure that everybody is giving their best effort. And that can only be done by when people know that they are supported, when they're listened to, and that their work truly, really matters. And that takes a lot of work to be able to develop as a leader, and a lot of reflection. After every decision that you make, after every campus event that you do, you need to sit down and reflect and see, how did this go? What were the positives that happened? What can we improve on? This is the list of people who were asked to do things. How did that go? How did they feel? And then ask your team, how did the event go? Or how did the organization go? Because you want their feedback too, because it's not just your reflection, but also taking in their thoughts as well, because they can always suggest how things go better, or how is it able to be transformed for the next time to make it better for everyone. So it's a continuous learning process. It's a continuous reflection process. But the main thing is making people feel valued and supported, and that their work matters in order to keep it going. Because only that first few feelings of excitement will last for a little bit, but people have to make sure that there's something substantial in that foundation of that group or that team or that organization that's going to keep it going and be sustainable.
Also wanted to ask, since we are speaking with college students today, whether they're graduating soon or if they're early in their freshman year, did you have any specific collegiate experiences that really shaped you into the leader that you are today?
So I went to Christian Brothers University down the street from you all. I almost went to UM, but I said it is too many people up here. It is too big, and I need to make sure I get the class on time. So I chose CBU. Just a little bit smaller. But on CBU's campus, I was a part of Black Student Association, the revitalization of the Black Student Association, and making sure that every Black and Brown person we saw on campus was highlighted, supported, even if they weren't involved or engaged in our BSA, just knowing that they were valued on campus. Also, in the year 2012, which was Barack Obama being reelected, his reelection campaign, I, along with students from Rhodes College, organized a student voting engagement project in which we had to ask campus to support us in getting students to go early vote. So that meant being able to use the vans from the athletic department and getting professors to drive. Of course, they weren't letting college kids drive the van to go vote, right? So getting professors to drive and being able to use transportation and just spreading the word across campus about getting out to vote. And so before that, we planned it all out, and we also urged for voter registration as well. But not just voter registration. We came back with them. It was like, all right, we got the vans, it's early voting, let's go. You registered, and that's half of it. But the other half is let's go down the street to make sure that we get our votes cast while you are on this campus. And so that was just one of the highlight leadership moments that I really, really look back to. And it was just encouraging to see professors work together, staff members work together, students at different schools work together for one common goal of civic engagement.
Absolutely, that's amazing. I would have never even thought that you could get that many people to sign off on doing that. I wish we had buses, but we don't. So
I'm sure
um,
you have something. It's all about
we
asking.
may, we
All
may.
about asking.
We may. I was going to ask, so did you have a lot of these students work with mentors, or they have internships throughout their process. So I was wondering, did you have a mentor during your college experience or early on in your career that you really look at now as someone who was super influential in your leadership and your civic engagement in general?
Definitely. Well, I keep telling you, I was not planning on politics. However, being a high school educator definitely has transferable skills when you think about how to deal with certain attitudes, deal with people. Education definitely has transferable skills for that. However, I have made sure that I still keep in contact with every mentor that I've had, whether that be from high school to Girl Scouts to college to grad school to programs that I've had. I try to keep in touch with everyone just because they've made such an impact on the way that I think and that I deliberate on certain decisions. And everything doesn't have to be, even if you want to go into politics, everything doesn't have to be politically aligned. My degree is in history and political science. And so my two internships were my senior year were at the National Civil Rights Museum and Stax Museum. And so I keep in contact with those individuals, but doing that work you wouldn't think was directly related to what I'm doing now. However, having those experiences, because I did collections, so I didn't do anything too fancy. I loved it, but I was in the collections basement and I labeled and I had intake for every single thing that came in, and I had to research it, and then I had to write up a paragraph on it. So if you go in the National Civil Rights Museum today, those paragraphs that you see beside the items, I wrote probably half of those. That's a fun fact. So, but doing that, just being able to be methodical, being organized, having certain structure, research, and asking people for help. Anything in your life, you should be able to align it to whatever your goal is. You want to make sure that what you're doing isn't going to take you off the path for what you would like to do in the future. So if politics is that, but don't try to make a career out of it. So you need to think about what else, how you going to do for real money. Making sure that those two are aligned and that it's helping your decision making skills, your fundraising skills, your structural skills, knowing about how government works and businesses, because that's a large part of it too. The budget, like I told you all, is a large part of it. And so just even if you're in finance or if you're going to try to get your MBA, that will be helpful as well. So making sure that your mentors also fall in line with that and seeking out those who are willing to help you, but you also have to be coachable as well. So not going in and thinking that you know everything and I got it because I've been on YouTube all week and I've been looking at this stuff and I've been on Canva. I know social media stuff because I made all my posts on Canva. I know how to do it all, and it's you have to be open and coachable, but you also have to ask. So not being afraid to ask people for help or advice or what they think, and then being able to continue on that relationship, because just getting one question answered isn't really going to help you for the trajectory that you want to go. You want to be able to have constant access to that person or to that group to be able to continue that on. So when you do have, because you will have future questions, you want to be able to go to that person or those people and ask them. So continuing that communication, not being afraid to ask, and also being coachable yourself.
Absolutely. We talk about accountability, coachability a lot. And so your mention of not coming in and acting like you know everything is key. It's a very kind of awkward position to be in because you want to come in with confidence, but you also don't want to come off too strong.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to ask you, especially in your position, because I'm sure you have people ask you all the time, how would you recommend students to ask somebody to be their mentor? Because that process is kind of awkward. So, how would you recommend students do that?
I think that it could be a couple of different ways. I'll give this sort of scenario suggestion. Let's say you are listening to a panel, and you really appreciate or like what the person is saying, what the speaker is saying. When they give you their information at the end, which everybody usually does, and nobody usually takes it down or keeps it or asks for it, reach out to them, send them an email. Hi, my name is Michalyn, and I was listening to the panel that you were on what is this, on April 1st, and I liked what you said about XYZ. Do you think, or would you mind, or have you, or consider talking to me more about this? When would be a good time to have a conversation with you if you're open? I can email, call, or set up a Zoom if you would like, because I really, and then also, not just because, so this is a pause in this, not just because you've heard what they said and you liked it, but maybe you went up and Googled them too. So you Google them, you look at their bio, you're on their Facebook or the website, and you see that they've also done things that maybe you want to do, or done things that you wish you could in the future. Maybe the thing isn't available anymore, or maybe they've moved on. But also include that in your email. And I also see that you are experienced in business, and that's my current major. Would you have time for a conversation over within the next 2 to 3 weeks? And that doesn't outright say, hey, you, I need some help. Will you be my mentor? But it opens the door for that conversation, because one, you just told that person what you just said did not fall on deaf ears. I was listening. Also, you told them that you're not going off of one thing you just heard. You went and looked them up. So you already showing them that you have dedication to making sure that what you're doing or who you're listening to isn't just off of one opinion. And then you're asking for a conversation. You're not asking them to write you a letter of anything. You're not asking them to help you with any assignment. You're telling them, I'm in this position. You are where I've pictured myself in the future. Would you just be open to talking to me? And a lot of times that's what leaders and folks in my position, and even further, want to hear, or are fine with hearing. Just, do you want to have a conversation? And conversations are low stress level. So it shouldn't be anything that you should be afraid of. They probably will say yes, unless they're just, just so ornery that they're not. But 9 times out of 10, people probably will have a conversation with you. And the thing is, with that conversation, then you can see if you want to continue on with that person. Maybe you have a conversation with them and you're like, nah, I don't think this is the person I want to be able to help me. So it kind of gives it both for both of you all. The person that you reached out to is able to get a feel for you more, and then probably open the door to invite you to something, have another talk again. Now they may be sending you resources when they see it, because they remember your name because you've had a conversation. But you also get to feel them out to even see if there's somebody you want to keep talking to. And so it's a kind of two-way street, but super simple. Like we said, with the how do you know the needs of the community? Talk to them, ask them. Email and reaching out is still a great way to see, even the mentorship, if you can grow to getting that mentor. So you all are already on a good step being in the program that you're in. So just be looking back and just seeing some things that you're taking part of, and if there's anyone that you want to reach out to.
Absolutely. I like that idea of like you interviewing them and them interviewing you without you actually knowing. I like those conversations. And it gives people choice, you know. You may really mesh with them and you may not. So I think those, offering up a conversation before really asking the question, hey, I really want you to be my mentor, is a really great opportunity. So, last question, more of like a question that doesn't have to be super serious. What are your goals as a councilwoman for the year of 2021? Or that could also be like your own personal goals in your life. So, what are your goals for this year?
So my goals are, so our terms are 4 years. So my term ends 2023. And so I don't have goals for this year. I have overall goals for 2023 to be done by. So there'll be little increments. I've broken them up into quarters to see what things need to be researched. What do I need to do in this fiscal year? But my overall goals is I am mainly focused on getting a grocery store in the North Memphis area. And so it's not just as easy as, yeah, tell the city build a building and get Kroger to come in. It's not that easy. So you have to locate money within the budget, things that can be moved. You have to work with housing development to find grants that they get from the state to be able to support that. And then you have to plan it out, because if I would say, yeah, we want to go to the store next year, well, our fiscal year goes from July to June. So currently we're in fiscal year 21, and then in July we'll be in fiscal year 22. So you have to think so far ahead to make sure that your long-term goals are getting where they need to be. So my main goal is to get a grocery store and a bank in the North Memphis area, as we are a food desert. So that is my focus. However, I've broken that one goal up into small things that I can do to build towards that. So when it's time, it'll already be in the works. Also this year, I'm having town halls to get community input on what else they would want around that grocery store and bank, to make sure that people are involved and having that strong community presence, so that it's not just me asking for the grocery store, it's everybody in this district that is supporting it as well, because that's key. So even if you are strategizing towards your goal, you want to make sure that it's an all around effort and not just something that you want. Because if it's something so great, it's always going to be more people that want it and not just you. But sometimes you have to make an effort for them to see that, and for them to have a chance to come on board with you. And then you got strength in numbers. So I've broken my goals down. So we are having our town hall at the end of April. Our budget season is coming up in May, but we will discuss from May to June before we pass our budget in July. And I'm still in talks with HCD about a developer that will be able to build it. But we have located an area. So breaking down into small chunks.
Well, with 2020 being such a large voting year, I know last semester in the fall, students were heavily involved with, polling and things like that. And they did a lot of community education events regarding that. So if there's anything that you ever have that you want students to be a part of, or you need volunteers for, anything, I'm sure plenty of students would love to be there. So feel free to send that my way. I just want to say thank you so much for coming and speaking with students today. I know they really enjoyed it. And, as we wrap up the semester, I know that they are, it's a lot for them. So I'm excited that you were able to come here today and boost their spirits, and talk about some changes that you want to see in Memphis. I know as University of Memphis, I'm a University of Memphis alum, and I know them as current Tigers, and me as someone who works there, is that we want to see this city get rid of the stigma that a lot of times it has. And, we appreciate your work. So thank you so much for being here.